Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. Smackdown tonight was from the Thompson-Boling Arena in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Smackdown tonight, I thought it was a solid show in my opinion. I thought it was a very fun show. And we had the World Heavyweight Championship tournament continue tonight on SmackDown. You know, it's not considered a tournament, it's just triple threat matches that we saw. The two matches that we saw on Monday Night Raw this past Monday, and two triple threat matches that we saw tonight on SmackDown. And SmackDown superstars, are competing in the tournament. And I'm like, why? Because when Triple H came out on Monday Night Raw almost 2 weeks ago, and he unveiled the World Heavyweight Championship, he said that the title is exclusive to Monday Night Raw. So why are SmackDown superstars competing in the tournament for the title? I don't know. But we had two first round matches in the tournament tonight on SmackDown. We had AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio and Edge. And the second match in the tournament was Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus and AJ Styles. So the winners of those two matches would compete in the main event later on in the night. We also saw Cameron Grimes to the moon versus Baron Corbin. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic match there. Obviously knew this was coming after what we saw last week on SmackDown. We also had the women's tag team titles on the line where Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Smiley Raquel, defend the titles against Bayley and Dakota Kai. And of course, the main event was the semifinals match in the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, where the two stars that won their first round matches competed, which I will get to. But overall, SmackDown tonight, very fun show it was, very solid show in my opinion. SmackDown opened up tonight with Rey Mysterio versus AJ Styles versus Edge. This was the first round match in the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, triple threat, and this was a very good match here, a very entertaining match. Edge made his way out, and he got a big pop from the crowd there in Knoxville. So Edge's kids were also at ringside, so they were at the show tonight. We already had AJ Styles and Rey Mysterio already in the ring because they made their entrance on WWE's social media. So we have Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles coming out on WWE's social media. Why? So the match got underway. We had Styles and Mysterio end up attacking Edge. They end up punching Edge down in the corner. Mysterio ended up knocking Styles back. Edge ended up rolling him up for a 2 count. Mysterio ended up rolling Edge up, and Edge ended up kicking out. Edge then ended up delivering a big boot to Styles, and then Edge delivered some forearms to Mysterio. Edge started stomping away at Styles, and then he ended up grabbing Mysterio. Edge then ended up punching Mysterio to the corner, and then Edge ended up whipping Mysterio to the opposite corner. Mysterio then dropped Edge on the apron, and then he ended up kicking Edge. Edge then ended up hitting Styles with a sunset flip, as Styles ended up hitting Mysterio with a catapult, which was great. And this was, a banger match, I gotta say. You got Mysterio, Styles, and Edge in there. It's going to be a banger of a match. So Styles quickly ended up grabbing Edge and catapulted Edge onto Mysterio. Styles ended up charging at Edge, but Edge ended up hitting Styles with a flapjack on Mysterio. Edge then connected with the Edge-O-Matic on Styles, and he ended up going for the cover, and Styles ended up kicking out. Edge then ended up punching Styles down the corner whipped him sternum first into the opposite corner. So Styles went head first into the ring post. Edge then ended up booting Mysterio off the apron, and Edge turned his attention back to Styles. Styles came back, ended up dropping Edge with a combo and a sliding forearm. Mysterio then ended up shouldering Styles back, and Mysterio ended up charging at Styles, but Styles countered with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker to Mysterio. Edge then ended up kicking Styles and sent him into the ropes. Styles then ended up reversing it on Edge. Styles then clotheslined Edge over the top rope. He then ended up whipping Mysterio into the opposite corner, but Mysterio ended up slingshotting Styles over him, and he ended up hitting a head scissors takeover. Edge then ran into the ring. Mysterio caught Edge with a head scissors takeover. Mysterio then ended up rolling through a sunset flip from Styles, and then Mysterio ended up kicking Styles in the head. Mysterio then elbowed Edge. He ended up going for a springboard crossbody, but Edge ended up catching Mysterio. Edge then ended up big booting Styles down, and Edge then ended up hitting Mysterio with the fallaway slam. Edge was going for the spear, but Styles and Mysterio ended up kicking Edge. Edge then ended up quickly sending Styles into Mysterio when Mysterio came back and delivered the code red, and we had Edge end up rolling out of the ring to recover because Edge ended up kicking out of the code red by Mysterio. So we had Styles and Mysterio end up going at it in the ring. Styles ended up sliding Mysterio out of the ring, but Edge ended up grabbing Styles with a front face lock. Styles then ended up hitting Edge with a baseball slide, which caused Edge to hit Mysterio with a DDT off the apron, which was crazy. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Styles was in control of the match. Styles was attempting to suplex Mysterio out of the ring, out to the floor, but Mysterio ended up landing on the apron. And then all of a sudden, Edge ended up spearing both Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles through the ropes, off the apron, down to the floor, which was crazy. Great spot there by Edge. So Edge ended up getting Mysterio in the ring. He ended up going for the cover. Mysterio ended up kicking out. So Edge started stomping on Mysterio in the corner, and he ended up charging Styles, getting into the ring. Styles then sidestepped Edge, and he ended up getting him out of the ring. Mysterio ended up forearming Styles back, and Mysterio ended up hitting a step-up enziguri to Styles. Mysterio then ended up charging Styles in the corner, but Styles countered with the calf crusher on Mysterio. So Edge ended up running in, and he applied a crossface to Mysterio. So Edge and Styles then end up attacking each other. Mysterio ended up rolling out of the ring to recover. Edge and Styles were exchanging strikes from their knees, and they ended up going back and forth. Mysterio came off the top rope, and he ended up hitting both Edge and Styles with a flying hurricanrana, which was great. So Mysterio ended up going for a double 619. Edge and Styles end up hitting a double drop kick to Mysterio. And then Edge and Styles end up whipping each other out with a double clothesline. So all three guys were down in the ring. Mysterio then ended up attacking Styles. Styles ended up reversing the whip. Mysterio ended up ducking a clothesline from Styles. He ended up drop kicking Styles down to the apron. So Mysterio then hit the ropes. Edge ended up big booting Mysterio down. Styles ended up charging at Edge, but Edge ended up sending Styles face first to the middle turnbuckle. So Mysterio ended up setting up for a super hurricanrana to Styles, but Styles ended up grabbing Mysterio and ended up hitting a sit-down powerbomb for a near fall because Mysterio ended up kicking out. Styles ended up getting to his feet. He ended up looking at Edge. Edge was still on the top rope. Styles ended up going for a superplex, but Mysterio ended up breaking up. So Mysterio ended up hitting Styles with a sunset flip powerbomb, and Styles ended up hitting Edge with a superplex. So Rey ended up going for the cover on Styles, and Styles ended up kicking out. So Mysterio ended up drop kicking Edge into the ropes. He ended up going for the 619, but Styles ended up sweeping Rey's feet. Styles ended up going for the phenomenal forearm to Edge, but Edge ducked it. Styles then leapfrog over a spear from Edge. Mysterio ended up hitting Styles with a springboard seated senton. So Ray ended up going for the 619 on Edge, but Edge ended up catching Ray, and he applied an educator on Mysterio. So Edge had the educator clinched on Mysterio, and he was seeing Styles end up coming up. So he was focusing on Styles coming up to him. Edge then ended up applying the educator to Styles. So Styles was screaming in pain. Styles then managed to crawl to the bottom rope. And of course, there are no disqualifications in a triple threat match. So Ray ended up hitting Edge in the face with a 619 to break up the educator. Mysterio then ended up going to the top rope, and he ended up diving. So we had Styles end up whipping out Edge with a phenomenal forearm. So there you go. AJ Styles ended up winning the match. He pinned Edge. So Styles ends up advancing to the semifinals later on in the night, which was the main event. So of course Styles will face the winner of the next triple threat match in the first round. So that was that. But overall, very good match. It was very entertaining match with these three guys. It was a banger of a match. Good spots here. You know, with Edge end up spearing both Styles and Mysterio. That was great. So then we had the second triple threat match in the first round of the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. It was Sheamus versus Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory. Now, I don't know why Austin Theory is in the triple threat, first round match in the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament when he is the United States champion. Why was he put in this over, anyone else that they could have put in? I know a lot of people said, "Oh, why didn't they have Gunther in this tournament?" If they put Gunther in, I'll be like the same thing with Austin Theory. Why would Gunther be in this tournament when he's the Intercontinental Champion? But this was another good match here. Really entertaining match. So the match ended up starting. Austin Theory immediately got out of the ring. Sheamus and Bobby Lashley ended up going outside, and they surrounded Theory. Theory tried to get into the ring, but Sheamus and Lashley ended up pulling him out. Sheamus and Lashley then double-teamed on Theory with some stomps, and they ended up putting him in the ring. Lashley ended up hitting Theory with a run shoulder and a neck breaker. Sheamus ended up dropping a knee on Theory. He ended up hitting a rolling senton. Lashley then clotheslined Theory over the top rope. And we've seen Lashley and Theory go at it how many times already? So Lashley and Sheamus end up squaring off in the ring. Sheamus ended up elbowing Lashley, ended up lifting him up. Lashley ended up sliding off of Sheamus, and he ended up hitting the flatliner. Lashley ended up hitting a rolling shoulder to Sheamus' midsection in the corner, started striking away at him. Lashley then backed up, ended up hitting Sheamus with another rolling shoulder in the corner. Lashley then started punching Sheamus, ended up hitting the ropes, but Sheamus ended up countering with a power slam to Lashley, ended up going for the cover, to which Lashley ended up kicking out at 1. Sheamus then ended up hitting Lashley from behind with a forearm to his back. Lashley was then knocked to the apron. Lashley ended up trying to suplex Sheamus out of the ring, out to the floor, but Sheamus ended up snapping Lashley off the top rope. Sheamus then set up for the 10 beats of the Bottering, but he ended up moving when Austin Theory ended up charging at him. Theory ended up hitting Lashley, ended up knocking him off the apron. Sheamus then ended up catching Theory, and Sheamus ended up hitting the 10 beats of Bottering to Austin Theory. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Lashley was in control of the match. Lashley ended up running over Theory with an avalanche at ringside. He ended up putting Theory on his shoulders. Lashley ended up driving Theory headfirst into the ring post. Lashley got into the ring and went at it with Sheamus. So both Sheamus and Lashley were exchanging blows in the center of the ring. Lashley ended up reversing the whip, and he ended up lowering his head, and he ended up, again, a knee strike from Sheamus. Sheamus then hit the ropes. Lashley ended up clotheslining Sheamus down. Lashley ended up charging Sheamus in the corner, but Sheamus ended up booting Lashley down. So Sheamus pulled himself up to the top rope. He was going for a diving shoulder to Lashley, but Lashley ended up catching Sheamus, ended up hitting an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. Lashley then set up for the Hurt Lock on Sheamus, but Theory ended up hitting Lashley and Sheamus with a Rolling Thunder drop kick. Theory ended up chop blocking Sheamus, ended up taking Sheamus down, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Lashley broke up the pin. Lashley then ended up attacking Theory, but Theory ended up booting Lashley back. Theory ended up hitting a Rolling Thunder Sling Blade, and he ended up going for the cover on Lashley, but Sheamus ended up breaking up the pin. Theory then turned Sheamus in the corner. He ended up shouldering and stomping Sheamus down. Theory got fired up. Lashley was down at ringside. So Theory ended up going to the outside. He sent Lashley headfirst to the ring steps. So Theory got on the apron. He ended up going for another Rolling Thunder move on Lashley, but Sheamus countered with an Irish Curse backbreaker. So Sheamus ended up hitting a pair of clotheslines to Theory. Sheamus put Theory in the corner, ended up hitting a corner clothesline. Sheamus then ended up sending Theory to the opposite corner, ended up hitting another corner clothesline. Sheamus then ended up lifting Theory up. Sheamus ended up going to the second rope, and he ended up hitting an avalanche white noise on Theory. He ended up going for the cover. Theory ended up kicking out. So Sheamus was sent up for the Celtic Cross on Theory. Theory countered that with a roll-up, to which Sheamus kicked out. Sheamus then ended up crushing Theory with a knee to his face. Sheamus ended up signaling for the bro kick. Sheamus then ended up turning, and Lashley speared Sheamus down. Theory ended up sending Lashley into the ring post. He ended up going for the cover on Sheamus, but Sheamus ended up kicking out. And Lashley was bleeding from the top of his head because he ended up going into the other ring steps. So Lashley ended up hitting Theory with a one-arm spine buster. Lashley then locked Austin Theory in the Hurt Lock. Sheamus got into the ring, ended up hitting Theory with the bro kick. Lashley quickly ended up sending Sheamus out of the ring, and Lashley ended up covering Theory. So there you go. Bobby Lashley ended up winning the match. So later on in the main event, it will be AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley. The winner will get to face Seth Rollins at Night of Champions for the World Heavyweight Championship in Saudi Arabia. But overall, this was a very good match here. Very entertaining match from these guys. So then we saw Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce was on the phone. Grayson Waller ended up coming in. Grayson Waller ended up telling Adam Pearce that the Grayson Waller effect should be on the show next week. So Adam Pearce ended up agreeing. So we're going to get the Grayson Waller effect next week on SmackDown, another talk show on WWE television. But really enjoy Grayson Waller. I like the Grayson Waller effect. Where in NXT, he would be live on, his Instagram. You would see these sort of like real or fake Instagram accounts that, just comment about Grayson Waller. And they say, "Oh, I'm on TV. Hey, Grayson, how you doing?" So we're going to be getting that next week on SmackDown. And then we saw Baron Corbin versus Cameron Grimes to the moon. And we had Cameron Grimes end up coming out. Baron Corbin got no entrance. So Cameron Grimes came out, got into the ring. Baron Corbin got on the mic, boring us on the mic, saying that Cameron Grimes was the last pick for SmackDown. In a few minutes, he will be flat on his back, wishing he was still in NXT. So then the bell ended up ringing. Cameron Grimes immediately crushed Corbin with the cave-in. And so Cameron Grimes ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Cameron Grimes ended up winning the match in 2 seconds. So watch WWE play that, for many times, putting that over. Cameron Grimes beat Baron Corbin in 2 seconds. That's a new record. Watch WWE overly play that to the point where we get sick of hearing it. Watch next week if Cameron Grimes is on the show. Oh, he beat Baron Corbin in 2 seconds. Let's see that again. Let's see that again. Another week comes. Or, God forbid, Cameron Grimes does a promo. Oh, I beat Baron Corbin in 2 seconds. They're going to put that shit over until we are all sick of hearing it. Watch WWE do that. A Raw squash match. 2 seconds. Moving on. Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, returned on SmackDown tonight. He made his way down to the ring alongside Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, and the Usos. So we had the bloodline. Roman Reigns was in the ring, holding his titles up. Pyro ended up going off. Paul Heyman ended up taking the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, put the titles over his shoulders. So Reigns ended up pulling the hand out. Paul Heyman ended up handing the Tribal Chief a mic. Reigns got on the mic. He ended up saying, "Knoxville, Tennessee, acknowledge me." Reigns ended up saying that greatness garners that kind of reaction, and that it garners respect. He ended up saying, regardless of reactions or not, this is one thing that must be respected. Reigns wanted to say that there was a lot of talk about royal families or families of importance in the business, but there is only one. He ended up saying that every man in this ring main evented both nights of WrestleMania. He ended up saying that they're probably thinking they've only done 2 nights for so long, but they're the only ones that will ever main event both nights of WrestleMania. He ended up saying that the success doesn't stop. And even at Backlash, with him not there, everyone has to step up. He ended up saying, who stepped up this time? Solo ended up stepping up. So, of course, Solo Sikoa in there, just not saying anything, looking like. So Reigns ended up saying that there was a little concern when they first got Sikoa on the road, because he's in the ring with the very best of all time. He ended up saying, when you're thrown in the deep end, you have to know if you can swim. He ended up saying Sikoa swims like a shark, and that Sikoa handled the Matt Riddle problem. So Reigns ended up saying that he's still concerned about Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So he had the crowd end up chanting for Sami. Reigns ended up laughing, and Reigns ended up telling Sikoa not to worry about that, and that they're not a problem. Reigns ended up saying that there is an actual problem, but it's not Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Reigns ended up saying, the problem are your brothers, the Usos. Which the crowd was shocked at. He was saying that to Sikoa. So Jimmy and Jay were looking a little uneasy in there. Reigns approached the Usos. He ended up asking what they thought was going to happen. He ended up saying to them, did they think they could lose in the main event of WrestleMania and not talk about it? Reigns ended up saying the Usos then begged for a rematch, and they dedicated it to him. And then they lose. So Reigns was furious that they dedicated a match to him, and the Usos lost. Reigns ended up saying that he's the greatest singles competitor of all time, and that the Usos disrespected their bloodline by dedicating a tag team match to him. So Reigns ended up saying that he tried to take some time for himself, and that the Usos embarrassed him, and that they misrepresented him and the bloodline and their family. So Reigns was like, they know better than this. The Usos know better than this. So Reigns ended up demanding that Jimmy and Jay end up apologizing. So the Usos were confused. Jimmy then looked at Jay. Reigns ended up telling Jimmy to look at him and apologize. Jimmy then looked at Paul Heyman. Reigns ended up saying to Jimmy that he doesn't want to hear anything come out of his mouth, aside from, "I'm sorry," or "I apologize, my tribal chief." Jimmy then started to laugh, which upsetted the tribal chief. Crowd was chanting "no" at Jimmy. So Reigns then ended up telling Jimmy not to listen to the idiots in the crowd. Reigns then poked Jimmy in the chest, and he ended up telling him to apologize, to which Jimmy was still smiling. So Reigns ended up saying that it's like they're making the Goodfellas commercial again. You know, the Goodfellas parody that they did for WrestleMania. And so Reigns ended up calling, Jimmy a clown. Reigns then ended up pie-facing Jimmy back, and Jimmy wasn't smiling anymore. Reigns ended up asking if Jimmy is going to do something. So Paul Heyman then got out of the ring to protect himself. So Jimmy was seething with anger. The crowd was chanting, "Do something." And I don't know if the crowd was chanting something else because the audio got blocked. The audio got censored. I don't know why. So Jimmy ended up approaching Reigns. Jay stepped in front of him, and Jay ended up saying something. We couldn't even hear it because the audio was still censored or blocked out. So the audio came back. Jay then apologized on behalf of Jimmy to Reigns. He ended up saying if they can get one more opportunity at the tag team titles, they'll bring them back to the bloodline. So Reigns ended up saying they have a plan. He ended up telling Paul Heyman to explain. So Paul Heyman ended up getting handed the mic. Paul Heyman ended up saying that they flexed their bloodline muscle, and that the tag team titles will come home to the bloodline at Night of Champions, when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will lose the titles to Solo Sikoa and your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. So the Usos are not getting a rematch against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It's going to be Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. So what are they going to do if Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns wins? They're going to have Roman Reigns with 3 titles around him? Obviously, pretty much that's not going to happen. So Reigns ended up saying that him and Sikoa will do what they always do and hold it down. So Reigns ended up saying that he's dedicating that match to the greatest tag team of all time. And the Usos were thinking that Reigns was going to say that they were the greatest tag team of all time, but Reigns ended up calling Alpha and Sika, the Wild Samoans, the greatest tag team of all time. So the Usos were speechless, and also they were embarrassed, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, this was a decent segment here. But, we're going to get the match at Night of Champions, Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. But, there's your match for Night of Champions. And then we saw Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage. She ended up talking about the Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship match happening at Night of Champions. And then she was then joined by Damage Control, Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. Bayley ended up saying to Kayla Braxton that this is supposed to be their interview time, not Roman Reigns. Bayley ended up saying that she and Reigns have some things in common. They are both great champions and leaders. Bayley ended up saying that she thinks that she pushed Io Sky too hard at Backlash. She ended up saying, just like Reigns, she'll take matters into her own hands. Bayley ended up saying that she will win the Women's Tag Team Championship with Dakota Kai. So she ended up saying that Kayla can tell Roman Reigns that SmackDown belongs to Damage Control. So pretty much that was that. And then we saw the Usos. They were walking backstage, and they saw the LWO, the Latino World Order, end up laughing. So the Usos were pissed, thinking that Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde were laughing at them. Zelina Vega was also there. So Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde were saying to the Usos that they weren't talking about them. Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar end up walking up. So we had the whole LWO there, and the Usos end up walking off. And that was basically that. Now we had the women's tag team titles on the line. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Smiley Raquel, versus Damage Control, Bayley and Dakota Kai. And this was a very meh match here. You had Raquel end up coming out with these glasses, looking like she was in the 80s, just smiling her way with the glasses on. Yeah, that was Raquel. So Dakota Kai started off against Raquel Rodriguez as the match began. Dakota Kai ended up going for a crucifix pin, but Raquel didn't budge at that. Raquel ended up getting Dakota Kai in the corner and tagged in Liv. Rodriguez ended up whipping Liv Morgan to Dakota Kai. Liv Morgan ended up whipping Raquel Rodriguez into her. So Liv Morgan ended up picking up a 2 count as Dakota Kai ended up kicking out. Dakota Kai fought back with a kick. And all you saw was backstage the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They were watching the match backstage. So Dakota Kai ended up hitting Liv Morgan with a vicious forearm. She tagged in Bayley. Liv Morgan ended up fighting both Dakota Kai and Bayley off. Bayley ended up rolling up Liv Morgan, to which Liv Morgan ended up kicking out. Dakota Kai then ended up grabbing Liv Morgan, but she ended up getting in the way. Bayley ended up clotheslining Liv Morgan down, ended up going for the cover, to which Liv Morgan ended up kicking out. So then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Raquel Rodriguez and Dakota Kai ended up tagging in, so they ended up going at it. Rodriguez ended up pinning a pair of clotheslines to Dakota Kai. She connected with a fallaway slam, which was followed up by an avalanche in the corner. So Raquel ended up pinning a second fallaway slam to Dakota Kai. She ended up going for a slingshot corkscrew elbow, but Dakota Kai ended up moving out of the way. Bayley tagged in, and Raquel ended up hitting both Bayley and Dakota Kai with a double choke slam. So Liv Morgan ended up tagging in. Raquel ended up throwing Liv Morgan to both Dakota Kai and Bayley in the corner. Raquel then ended up using Liv Morgan as a battering ram on Dakota Kai and Bayley. She ended up throwing Liv Morgan into Bayley. So Raquel was kicked out of the ring by Dakota Kai. Liv Morgan then ended up knocking Dakota Kai out of the ring. So Liv Morgan then kicked Bayley in the corner, put her on the top rope. Dakota Kai blind tagged in. Dakota Kai then ended up kicking Liv Morgan in the face. Bayley held Liv Morgan up. Dakota Kai ended up coming off the top with a powerbomb diving knee on Liv Morgan, which was great. So Dakota Kai slowly ended up covering Liv Morgan, but Raquel Rodriguez came in to break up the pin. So Bayley tagged in, and she directed Io Sky to do something. As Dakota Kai ended up distracting the ref, Io Sky ended up going to give Bayley one of the women's tag team titles. Raquel pulled that away, so Liv Morgan then rolled Bayley up. And then there you go. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez win the match and still retain the women's tag team championship. Overall, very meh match it was. And then we went to the Brawling Brutes. Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch backstage. So Ridge Holland and Butch were trying to get Sheamus to cheer up backstage after Sheamus lost the match earlier in the night. And Pretty Deadly ended up walking up to them. Elton Prince, and Kit Wilson. Not a fan of Pretty Deadly. Even when they were in NXT, wasn't a fan of them. They just come off as cringe and corny. So, Pretty Deadly walked up to the Brawling Brutes. They started mocking them. Butch wanted to pounce at both of them, but we had Sheamus and Ridge Holland end up holding Butch back. So pretty much that was that. So we're going to be getting the match next week. Brawling Brutes versus Pretty Deadly next week. So there you go. Do I care? No. And then they made the match official. It's going to be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship against the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, and Solo Sikoa at Night of Champions. And lo and behold, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to Saudi Arabia. When before, they didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. So now all of a sudden, they want to go. They want to go to Saudi Arabia to defend the titles. And then we had Bianca Belair's championship celebration. So Bianca Belair was in the ring celebrating. This was in her hometown. So her hometown crowd ended up giving her a great ovation, of course. The balloons were decorated with the Tennessee Vows colors. It was orange and white. So Asuka then made her way down to the ring. We had an ESG chant end up picking up from the crowd, but you could tell that was piped in because nobody in the crowd were moving their mouths. So piped in crowd noise that WWE put in here. So Asuka ended up wanting a handshake from Bianca. Bianca obliged, and Asuka then ended up spitting blue mist in Bianca's eyes. Bianca ended up screaming in agony, and the crowd ended up booing at Asuka. So Asuka turned heel here, just by spitting that blue mist into Bianca's eyes. So we had officials, trainers end up running down with some towels and some water to wash the mist out of Bianca's eyes. And then Asuka ended up celebrating as the crowd ended up booing at Asuka. And pretty much that was that. This was a waste of time. So it looks like we're going to be getting another rematch with Bianca and Asuka. What a waste of time this segment was. So then we had them announce that Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa will come face to face with the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn next week on SmackDown from Columbia, South Carolina. So Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio will also take on the Usos next week. Pretty Deadly, of course, will face the Brawling Brutes. And then AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley will appear on the Grayson Waller effect. So that's all announced for SmackDown next week in Columbia, South Carolina. Main event. The semifinal match for the World Heavyweight Championship in the tournament. AJ Styles versus Bobby Lashley. The winner will get to face Seth Rollins at Night of Champions for the World Heavyweight Championship. So this was a good match here. So the match ended up started. Styles and Lashley ended up circling the ring. Lashley had a big clot on the top of his head from where he was busted open from the ring steps earlier in the night. So Styles ended up sidestepping Lashley, started taunting him. So Styles ended up backing up to the corner, ended up staring at Lashley. Styles then sidestepped Lashley and ended up chopping Lashley's chest. So Lashley ended up dropping Styles with a knee to his midsection. Lashley ended up throwing Styles to the corner, started stomping him down. And we had Styles ended up choking Lashley with his boot. Lashley ended up hitting the ropes for a running forearm, but Styles ended up sidestepping Lashley. Styles started striking away at Lashley. He ended up going for a whip, and Lashley ended up stopping. Lashley then ended up eventually sending Styles over the top rope out to the floor. Lashley then threw Styles into the LED apron. Lashley then ended up lifting Styles onto his shoulders and drove him headfirst into the ring post. So then SmackDown went to commercial. So as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Lashley was in control of the match. He started elbowing away at Styles' head. Lashley ended up sending Styles into the ropes. So we had Lashley ended up lowering his head, and Styles ended up delivering a kick to Lashley. He started stomping away at Lashley, ended up attacking Lashley's ankles. Styles then hit the ropes, and Lashley ended up dropping Styles with a back elbow. Lashley started punching away at Styles. So Lashley ended up whipping Styles into the corner, and Styles ended up countering with a calf crusher. Styles had it locked in on Lashley, but Lashley ended up managing to hook Styles' head. He ended up slamming Styles into the mat to break up the calf crusher. Lashley then pulled Styles up by his hair, and Styles ended up blocking the right hand from Lashley. And Styles ended up hitting a strike combo that brought Lashley down to his knees. So Lashley's head was bleeding once again. Styles then ended up hitting a DDT to Lashley, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Lashley ended up kicking out. So Styles started punching Lashley, ended up putting him on his shoulders. Lashley fought out, ended up hitting a lift and flatliner to Styles. He ended up going for the cover, to which Styles ended up kicking out. So Lashley's face was turned into a crimson mask from the blood. So he ended up going for a modified dominator. Styles ended up landing on his feet. Styles connected with a sliding forearm, and Lashley ended up managing to stumble up to his feet. He ended up avoiding a running forearms from Styles. Lashley then applied the hurt lock to Styles, to which Styles ended up putting himself through the ropes to break up the hurt lock. So Styles was down on the apron. Lashley got out of the ring and grabbed Styles. Lashley then ended up slamming Styles off the ring steps and put him on his shoulders. Styles ended up sliding off and sent Lashley into the ring post. Styles then ended up stunning Lashley with an overhead kick. Styles then ended up putting Lashley in the ring. He was sent up to go for the phenomenal forearm, but Lashley ended up grabbing Styles, put him on his shoulders to counter. Styles ended up fighting out, ended up going for the calf crusher again, but Lashley ended up getting out of the calf crusher. He ended up going for a suplex, but Styles ended up kneeing Lashley in the face. Styles then ended up hitting the ropes. Lashley countered into a running power slam. He ended up going for the cover, to which Styles ended up kicking out. Lashley ended up trying to set up for another hurt lock to Styles, but Styles elbowed out. Lashley backed up. He ended up charging for a spear, but Styles ended up twisting away. Lashley then ended up hitting the ring post shoulder first. Styles then ended up kneeing Lashley's skull into the ring post, and then Styles connected with a phenomenal forearm. Styles ended up going for the cover, and there you go. AJ Styles ended up winning the match. So Styles will be facing Seth Rollins at Night of Champions for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be a good match at Night of Champions between Styles and Seth Rollins. It's going to be a banger of a match. So post-match, Gallows, Anderson, and Mia Yim, the rest of the OC, they came out to celebrate with Styles as SmackDown went off the air. Overall, this was a very good semifinals match between Bobby Lashley and Styles. And obviously, at Night of Champions, Seth Rollins is going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. It's obviously, going to happen. But overall, SmackDown, very fun, solid show it was. But anyways, that's it for the SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, I'll see you all later.